All right. Good Tuesday morning, y'all. I'm Meteorologist Robertson, bringing you a quick update. A fun update. Tropics. I know that this has been a question every single forecast. When I come on here and do a live stream, it's always tropics questions in the comments. And people have the main question, I feel like, that's been asked by a lot of people is, what is a National Hurricane Center, or what is NOAA's forecast for this season? And we finally have it today. They were at New York City announcing what may potentially be another above average season. I know, we don't want to hear that, but that's their forecast, that's their outlook. And if this holds tight, if this forecast does play out, this will be the 7th consecutive year of above average activity in the Atlantic Basin in terms of hurricanes and tropics. So we can break everything down. If you have some questions, please let me know. But in the meantime, there's nothing to worry about right now. Actually, I'm just going to show you all this right here. All right? Nothing to worry about. No tropical developments expected over the next 5 days. I know that there's been some talks of tropical mischief in the Gulf over the last couple of weeks. Of course, that did not play out. There have been some model runs that have been being pushed across social media, showing some potential tropical storms or hurricanes forming. Would have been this week in the Gulf of Mexico. That clearly did not happen, and no models are picking up on any activity anytime soon. So right now we're good. It's actually looking like we may make it out of. Oh, please speak up. Kenny said, please speak up. I'm trying to. If you guys can hear me, I always ask first. If you guys can hear me, let me know. Give me a thumbs up very clearly. I want to make sure that you guys hear me clearly. Sometimes the microphones don't really pick me up very well, but it's real close to me. So, yeah. So no tropical development is expected over the next 5 days, and which is a good thing. But we have to, of course, talk about what's ahead in the future, why they called this outlook here, and it looks like we may not get that preseason storm. Over the last 7 years, we've gotten a storm that's developed before the official start of hurricane season, which is June 1st. Right now, it's looking like that may not happen. Of course, that's a good thing, but we still have plenty of weeks for tropical activities. So let's break everything down. If you have any questions, please let me know. Hey, Chris, how's it going? Chris said, can you pull up any changes in the Gulf Stream that may have occurred with ice melting? Not necessarily. That's definitely more of a climate question that will have to be more dug into right now. We're just going to talk a little bit about the forecast and what NOAA is predicting and what some of the other hurricane institutes like CSU, Colorado State University, what they've been talking about. And their forecast kind of lines up here. All right, so the breakdown here, what we heard this morning, NOAA is calling for 14 to 21. I know that's a really big range there, but 14 to 21 named storms this year. This is their May forecast. I know they come up with an update in, I think, August, closer to peak hurricane season. But for now, this is their early season outlook. Of those, 6 to 10 could be hurricanes, and then major hurricanes, about a handful, 3 to 6. Of course, this is just a forecast. It does not mean that that would actually happen, but that's what they're calling for. One of the reasons why, or at least two of the reasons, let's talk about it. Warmer than average, of course, temperatures in the Atlantic, sea surface temperatures, nice and toasty, bathwater temperatures, of course, especially in the Gulf of Mexico. Storms can rapidly intensify because that's just fuel for those storms. And a continuing La Nina. When you have a La Nina in place, you really don't have a lot of those upper level winds, that wind shear that could rip apart storms. So with that lack of shear, well, of course there will be some shear present, but not a significant amount, it looks like, when you usually have La Ninas in place. So you have the La Nina, and then you have those warmer sea surface temperatures, and that is just a great environment for storms to thrive and to grow. So that's not really the greatest thing, obviously. We want that wind shear. Of course, we would like more average to below average sea surface temperatures, and that's looking like that's not going to happen this year. This is why we have the 7th consecutive above average season. And of course, the last 2 seasons And then you include 2005, Katrina, and some other notable storms. Those were very active seasons. So we're just continuing on with that trend over the last couple of years. And of course, we can just hope that nothing bad plays out. But the director for NOAA said, and we say this all the time, it only takes one storm. It really does. That storm could be absolutely devastating. It could lead to catastrophe. You don't need a significant amount of storms. Last year, we had one Category 1 storm, that was Elsa, that impacted the Tampa Bay area. But we had a significant amount of other storms that pretty much stayed out at sea. So we didn't have a lot of impacts there, but even with Elsa, you know, it was a weaker storm, but it still caused some damage. And so just imagine if that was even, of course, a lot stronger than that. So you don't need a lot of storms for the season to be catastrophic, obviously. We've seen that plenty of times before. And here's a hurricane wind scale. So Category 1 storm, 74 to 95 miles per hour, Cat 2, 96 to 110, sustained winds. And then you get into major hurricane status, and the the NOAA actually was calling it 3 to 6 storms. So there could be 3 to 6 storms that have winds of 111 miles per hour or higher. And of course, we don't want to see that Category 5 at all. So those major hurricanes, of course, could be devastating. We don't want to see that. Let's see, any prediction on areas of development, for example, Gulf, Caribbean, etc. At this point, no. We still have to, of course, stay well abreast of the forecast. But one thing I say about the Gulf all the time, Gulf temperatures is just amazing fuel for storms. When storms enter the Gulf, they could be Category 1, maybe had some impacts getting across some of those higher elevated Caribbean islands like Hispaniola, Cuba. The mountains rip storms apart sometimes. So sometimes they crawl along it, they weaken, but sometimes when they enter the Gulf of Mexico, they just blossom and intensify. Less friction, of course, out there. It's just a stretch of water, no land to really impact you, and then you have those really, really, really warm temperatures. And so we tend to see what we call rapid intensification when storms enter the Gulf of Mexico. And that's happened plenty of times. You can name Ida. That was a great example from last year. Within 24 hours, I was actually here forecasting that day. Of course, it didn't really impact us. It threw some moisture our way. But of course, Ida made landfall in Louisiana. And while I was here the entire time, did I see it go from a Cat 1 to a 3 or a 2 to a 4? It was something incredible. Like, I was just here for one shift, and that storm intensified so quickly because of the influence from the Gulf of Mexico waters. So we tend to get some really strong storms in the Gulf of Mexico. And even if they're not really strong, storms in the Gulf of Mexico hold a lot of moisture. And so we've seen storms in Texas that have led to significant rainfall, even with the lack of winds. You know, the winds could have been below Cat 1 strength, more depression or tropical storm-like strength, but because those storms were packing a significant amount of moisture as they were created and moved from the Gulf of Mexico to on land, we've gotten some significant flooding catastrophe, like in Houston and some parts of the Texas coast, also Louisiana, Mississippi, pretty much the entire Gulf Coast sees some devastating situations with some of these storms. So it only takes one, obviously, and we hope that we don't see any strong storms this year. And of course, if we get an uptick in those storms, we really just hope that a lot of them hopefully stay out at sea, don't impact anyone, but we just have to wait and see. So for now, I can actually show you all a tropical frequency. For people who are not familiar maybe with tropic season, this is a great graphic here to let you know what's going on. Not saying that between June and July we don't get any storms. Elsa came in June, I believe, June or July. So early on in the season. So you can still get storms early on. You can get strong storms early on in the season too, but you see that uptick in frequency as you get into September. September 10th is that peak hurricane season. The last 3 years I've been here, we have our hurricane outlook maps, the ones it looks just like this. the tropical outlook. And always on September 10th, or at least that week, this map is lit up. You see those circles of development, potential development, disturbances out there. There's just so many because our National Hurricane Center is just monitoring that. So we tend to see that uptick around the start of September. And then as we get into the months after that, it goes down pretty significantly. But we have gotten postseason storms, and we've gotten the storms toward the end of the season as well, and they've brought us damage. So this is just all to say that, yeah, we may see an uptick in storm activity around September, especially around that main developmental region near Africa. But you can get a strong storm in June or July. You can get a strong storm in November. Mother Nature does what she wants to do. So you just have to make sure that you're very prepared. You need to be preparing now for hurricane season, especially after seeing this forecast that's calling for another above average season. Multiple storms could form. Chris says, historically, don't they form off of Africa early in the season or not? Sometimes they do. That's what I'm talking about, that main development region over there in Africa. So right off of the coast, kind of near the Cape Verde area, we tend to see waves come off of the African coast. They move into that environment, the warmer waters of the Atlantic, and they tend to travel sometimes towards the Caribbean, sometimes because of blocking highs and maybe fronts pushing out, they can curve up towards Bermuda or just curve up out into the Atlantic and stay at sea. So sometimes they form there, and that's when we see a lot of storm activity out there, and then they have to travel quite a ways until they get close to the United States, obviously. But we get storms in the Gulf of Mexico that form, probably sometimes in the southern Caribbean area, also some storms that form kind of along the coast of Florida. Wherever there's really warm bodies of water and there's the right conditions for it, you can get storms to form kind of anywhere in the Gulf of Mexico, kind of in the Atlantic Basin. But a lot of the storms that we do see, an area that we tend to focus on, obviously, is that region near Africa. So not all storms come from there, and we've seen storms develop closer to us that have been damaging. But that is an area that we look. Talk about sea surface anomalies here. So this is another thing that the forecasters look at too when they're calling for seasonal outlooks. What are the temperatures like in the Atlantic Basin? Where sea surface temperatures, even the temperatures a little bit lower or further south. Further south, I can't get that terminology there. Deeper in the ocean, there we go. So right now, this is showing that compared to normal, temperatures are about a degree, maybe 1.5 degrees above where they're supposed to be for this time of year. This is on average here. You can kind of see around the mid-Atlantic, there are those kind of pops of red there. That is a part of the Gulf Stream. Storms can sometimes latch onto that, and it's a very warm stream of water, a current that runs up the eastern seaboard. So sometimes we see storms form, and then they attach themselves kind of to that Gulf Stream. They feed off of that warmth from the Gulf Stream, especially if the core of the storm is right over it. And sometimes they maintain intensity. That's why we see a lot of those storms sometimes that go all the way up the eastern seaboard, a little bit stronger, because they have those fuels and they're holding on to maybe Cat 1 strength, which of course is devastating. We don't need a lot of wind in a storm for catastrophe to happen. We've seen that with Sandy. We've seen that with a lot of different storms where storm surge and flooding have really made a significant impact because they were really big rainmakers. We saw that last year with, I believe it was Ida, that led to flash flood emergencies, even though it did not technically climb across the Gulf Stream. But we do have that warm body of water along the eastern seaboard that hurricanes can tap into. And you can kind of see that here, some of those pops of red. Waters around the mid-Atlantic are a little bit warmer than where they're supposed to be this time of year. So with this map, that's a good indicator that these storms could definitely form a little more frequently. And of course, with that lack of wind shear because of La Nina, we could get some more storms in here too. Wind shear, of course, inhibits storm formation. So I'm gonna end this here with the hurricane names. You see, it starts with Alex. We haven't had Alex yet, which is great. Hopefully we don't have to get down to Walter, what is possible. Within the last 2 years, we have gone through the entire list. So hopefully you don't have to do that this year. That would be quite annoying. But Alex, Bonnie, and Colin, those are the first 3 storms. We don't know when they're going to happen, but we'll just have to wait and see. And then compared to the last several years, last decades, when we do, like in 2005 and 2022, 2005, yeah, 2005, 2022, when we have gone through all the names, we tend to go to Greek letters. That's what we've been doing for years. Well, only 2 years, but that was the next best bet there. Those are the rules. Now we're not doing the Greek letters anymore. We're doing a supplemental list of names. So if we do go past Walter, we'll have to start with Adria. That will be the first name on the supplemental list if we blast through that 2022 list. And these names are pretty fun. Michaela, Deshawn, Jacobus, Pax. It's very 2020s, I feel. More inclusive. But that's pretty much the tropics breakdown. We're not watching anything right now, which is excellent, but if it's anything like the last 2 years, we're going to be very, very busy here in the Weather Center. So thankfully, we can just kind of catch our breath, get ready for it. And of course, this is a great time to get prepared. Here's the forecast for today, by the way. It's a great time to get outside and maybe get some, get some of those the debris out of your lawn. I mean, I know it's hot, but do it in the afternoon. Our evenings, yesterday evening felt amazing. So maybe do it when you get home. You can see our forecast today. Pretty nice. You can't complain. A couple of showers are possible. I'm trying to find this graphic. I'll just go to the 7-day here. A few showers are possible, mainly along I-75, and a few showers could pounce back to the coast as we get into this evening, but most of the area will stay pretty dry today. So just dodging an isolated shower, which means that you can get outside, especially if it's not raining. It's going to be really nice to get outside later on this evening and maybe get some of those hurricane preps done. And this weekend, get your shopping done, and get the water, get everything that you need, wood for your windows. All of that. Make sure that you have everything prepared, because within this window from June all the way to November, we can get a storm, and it may be too late sometimes to prepare. So make sure that you're preparing now. We have some great hurricane hacks on our website too, if you really need some help and preparedness for this year. So don't take this lightly, all right? Make sure that you are taking the time to educate yourself about hurricane season. This is why we're here. And take the time to really have all the things that you need in case you do have to evacuate or you do have to hunker down for any type of storm. It could be even a depression that brings a significant amount of rain, even a kind of a sloppier storm that may bring some severe weather like tornadoes. You just want to make sure that you are prepared always, especially during this time of year. Alrighty, friends, that is it for me. I'm going to wrap it up here, leave it on this outlook once again. And I'll be back a little later to give you a full rundown of the full forecast and what we're going to be expecting over the next few days. So tune back in at 4 if you want really hyper-local details about what to expect for your Memorial Day weekend. In the meantime, I'm going to wrap it up. Have a good one. I will talk to you all soon. Bye.